All right, so that was quite a meaty and juicy and in-depth conversation, a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes at Qatar. And now we're going to move into section 2 of the podcast, which we call Getting Athletic. So this is quite a lot of people are talking about it. And, you know, why not just join in and have our quick little 5-10 minute discussion about it as well. It is the Cristiano Ronaldo interview that happened on Piers Morgan, uncensored. Now, this was released 2 days ago upon recording. Well, now that we're recording, by the time this comes out, it will have been, 8 or 9 days ago. But basically the full interview has come out. But before the full interview came out, there were little snippets that got released onto social media. And there has been a lot of different opinions on everything that has been said. There's been a lot of different views on everything that has been said. And I think what you and I can do is we can work through some of the things that he said and just share our opinions on it and just kind of, a view from the outside as we're not Man United fans. I like Ronaldo as a player, but we can just actually share our opinions. So off the bat, what I want to ask you is, on this whole thing, this whole interview that he's done, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What's your first opinion on, let's talk about, instead of for now focusing on individual things he said, your overarching opinion on the interview?
One is timing. 2 is choice of platform. So I think he could have done this in many different ways. I think there's definitely a reason why he did what he did, where he did it, with whom he did it. So yeah, I think it could have been done better. I understand impact-wise, this is probably the best option that is out there. You've been given the platform of a man that, it is title of his show is uncensored. He literally has the floor for you, and didn't Ronaldo make use of that? I see it as his move out. So obviously we heard about how
try and move.
I think this forces it. So a lot of the time we hear about players kind of forcing the hand of the club. So say it was a transfer that they're waiting to happen, or they've gone back on their word. Cool, I'm not going to show up for training, or I'm going to come late to training, and you can find me, whatever, it's fine, I don't care, until I've essentially forced your hand. And Man United played a lot of hardball. They said, look, no, I'm not going to sell you. You're not up for sale. I know there's tons of interest in you because of the caliber of player that you are, but you're a Manchester United player. You are signed and you're on our books until X date, and for all intents and purposes, you're part of my plans. These are the words from Ten Hag. As reassuring as that is, obviously it didn't quite translate to minutes on the pitch. We noted the storming out of Old Trafford in the Tottenham game. And yeah, in my opinion, this is his ticket out. So this is like,
how do you think
we've passed the point of no return? I'm out.
How do you think he comes across though? Like now, like just your general feeling, how did he come across to you?
It plays into the arrogance conversation. So almost like his ego is too big for the position that he's in at Man United. So if the club can't work at giving me what I want, there isn't a middle ground. Yeah, it's done. It's an absolute. Yeah. It's either I'm in your team and I'm playing, or I'm not in your team and I'm not playing. I'm not one of these up and coming guys that need a 5 minutes here, a 15-minute cameo. I'm the star. Give me my flowers. Let me play. I'm here to play. Okay. You're paying me a huge salary. I'm here to do the business. There's a reason why you're paying me this top dollar. Yeah. I'm here to prove that. And what's your thoughts on it?
my thing is, so he says in the interview that he was actually quite close to joining City, which would have been interesting to see what that looked like, to be honest with you. I will say the first mistake that happened is that when he signed for Man United, it felt like Man United signed him to prevent City from getting him, as opposed to signing him because they wanted him. And that, for me, was the first problem. United needed to focus on themselves and realize that they maybe didn't need him at that time. That's my initial feeling that I got. They did it to spite City, and at the end of the day, they just spited themselves. That's the first thing that I would say just off the bat. I will say that because I watched the full interview, there were some parts that I think were quite controversial. I think, to be honest with you, I think for a large portion of it, he carried himself quite well. I believe that, I'm not talking about the very controversial things that he said, just the way that he spoke. There was a lot of times when you could see he could have very easily insulted Ten Hag or whoever it was, and he didn't. He was very pragmatic in a lot of the things that he said, which I also can respect. And what he said in the beginning when Piers Morgan, I think, comes off the best in this situation, because Piers Morgan gets this groundbreaking interview. I will say, honestly, like, I'm not the biggest fan of Piers Morgan. I found that he asked very pointed questions, very leading questions, which I think Ronaldo, to be honest, dealt with very well. He managed not to be questioned into a corner. But right in the beginning, Piers Morgan asked him, why now? Like, why are we doing this interview? And Ronaldo said, because you get to hear from everyone else. The media gets to say what they need to say. Ten Hag gets to say what he wants to say. Everyone gets to say what they want, but I don't get to say it in the way that I want to. And I wanted the opportunity to do that. And that I can respect. That, I must say, I think is admirable. Now, when we look at Ten Hag saying one thing and then in reality it being something else, you know, like you said, like Ten Hag said, oh, he's a part of my plans. I don't really believe that. I don't think Ten Hag ever had him as part of his plans. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't believe that. And, you know, with him leaving the Tottenham ground, I also found it a bit weird because, and he pointed this out in his interview, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Like a week or 2 weeks before they played City, and City, you guys smashed them, obviously. I mean, 6-3 is probably not even a true reflection on what that match was, but it was 6-3, and Ten Hag, they asked him, why didn't you bring Ronaldo on? And he said, no, I respect his career too much to bring him on in a game like that. And then 2 weeks later, you 3-1 down against Tottenham. They were 3-1 down, I think, or they were 3-1 up, 2-0 up, something like that. They were winning. And then he wanted to bring Ronaldo on for 3 minutes. So I'm like, you respect his career too much to bring him on against City, where whatever you're saying, but then you want to bring him on for 3 minutes against Spurs in a game that's already done and dusted. So I kind of also feel like Ten Hag does have some questions to answer, in the sense of, like, I don't think he's being completely honest about everything. I think he's been very pragmatic about a lot of things. Overall, I get what you're saying about him. It does have a little sense of, like, throwing his toys a little bit and just being... I think he carried himself well, to be honest with you. I think the timing is bad, I feel. And I wonder what effect this is going to have on the World Cup. They did say things like, I saw Bruno Fernandes had an interview, because you saw that he went to shake his hand and they're like, oh, Bruno Fernandes is so cold. Mm-hmm. They asked Bruno Fernandes about that. He's like, no, there was no, like, did you hear the sound? And they were like, no. And he's like, there was really nothing to it. Like, it wasn't like that at all. So I do think the media does take things out of context a little bit. But yeah, it is tricky. What I wanted to ask you was this. He said something about he doesn't respect Ten Hag because Ten Hag doesn't respect him, right? He very clearly said that. What do you think is his responsibility as one of the best players in the world? His reputation, all these things considered, do you think that's something that needs to be considered when managing him? Do you think, let me ask this, do you think Ten Hag has held himself, do you think Ronaldo's all to blame for everything that's going on here? Or do you think there's a little bit more to it?
No, I think both sides have to, back their actions. So Ten Hag saying, look, you're a part of my plans and then you're not, that doesn't fly. If, I think it was last week when you mentioned all or nothing, which gives us insight into what's happening in the back. And both in the Arsenal one and even in the Spurs one, you have managers that come up front, and I've seen it, I think it was also mentioned in the City one, where players, when the manager comes in and he knows players aren't part of his plans, be upfront and man enough about it to say, Tyler, you know what, I'm looking to have a specific type of striker. You have a lot of ability, you bring a lot of strengths in kind of your mold of striker, but I'm looking for something different. I need someone that gives me A, B, and C. And don't take this personally, but you don't quite fit what my profile is for a striker. And I think it's best if we can try and either have, so let's just get clarity and understanding out the way. If we have two options. Option A, you adjust your game to suit my style of play. So I'm going to ask you to do A, B, and C. Are you able to do that? Yes or no?
Yeah.
You say no. Cool. Then option B is, let's find an option for you to apply your trade elsewhere. If it means we need to cover the cost of your salary, we'll find kind of a negotiating ground and we'll find solutions to this. You've seen it with what Arteta kind of taking the stand against Oba. Okay, slightly different. But in the all or nothing with Spurs, Mourinho was very up and honest with Danny Rose and I think Dele Alli as well. Tells you straight, look, you're not the kind of mold I'm looking for. And these are our options. How do you want to play this? So have a conversation, have this, open cards on the table discussion and say, look, this is what I want. Now I'll give you an opportunity to state what your intentions are, what your desires are. Cool. Is there a middle ground? What can we work from here? So Ten Hag needs to be accountable for that. If I'm part of your plans, state it. How am I a part of your plans? Don't just say, you're a part of my team, we're going to keep you around and you're going to help the team. That's not going to help anybody.
It's very vague.
Especially for a player of Ronaldo's caliber, one, of his age, two. If you're within the last 2-3 years of your career, I think he said he wants to play another 2-3 years.
2 more years. He said he wants to retire when he's 40,
So if you know that you're essentially in the twilight phase of your career, give me the opportunity to go and play. If I know, one, I want to play regular football. Two, I'd like to be in Europe. Cool. What considerations do we have for that? And having that open line of discussion. I think, to your point, he should get some credit for getting an opportunity to voice his side of things, because I don't see it a lot with players. Players are very coy when they have interviews like post-game or whatever it is. So I do think players are at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to saying their side of the story. I just think the timing was off and what he was looking to achieve with it. No, I do. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But, there's also a lot more to the interview than just, and I did quite like the fact that, I did feel like Piers Morgan was doing a bit of like sucking up. I'm going to be honest with you. I really do feel like there was too many times. I mean, if you can't hear in my voice, I'm not the biggest fan. Not that I think he cares. And, must be careful because Piers Morgan will cancel us. But, I'm not the biggest fan. But I did like the fact that it wasn't all about, there was a lot about it. Even Ronaldo said like things like Man United hasn't progressed. Technology is still at the same. He also said something really dope when he said that he hopes Arsenal wins the Premier League, if not Man United and Arsenal. I thought that was sick. I actually need to tell Ruben because he's been giving me a hard time about this. I'm going to tell him that his hero is supporting us, though, so he should as well. But I liked also that there was more to it, that they spoke a little bit about like the tragedy that Ronaldo went through in losing one of his children. And I do think it was, to a large extent, quite well-rounded in a lot of ways. But I also wanted to ask you this. When it comes to moving forward now for Ronaldo, so we know Man United has said that they are exploring their legal options here on how to cancel his contract. Essentially, he has about, I think I worked it out, it's about £16 million still to make
in the 7 months that he's going to be working there. Legally, it will cost them about £15 million to cancel his contract. So I guess my question is, do you think that there is any scenario in which Ronaldo can wear a Man United shirt again? A, and B, a lot of the pundits are saying like that Ten Hag actually showed a lot of respect for Ronaldo by making him captain. Was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't think that was. I strongly disagree with that. I don't think Ten Hag has been showing him much respect, to be honest. And fair play, if you don't want him in your team, that's fair enough. But you know, there's that saying that I heard in Batman that I love: is don't wee on my head and tell me it's raining. You know, don't piss on my head and tell me that it's raining. So I kind of feel like he's not part of your plans, and I felt like it was such a weird call when he made him captain for that match, and I found it like actually meaningless. So my one question is, one, do you actually think that there has been that level of respect that the pundits are talking about? And two, is there any future here for Man United and Ronaldo?
Answering question one, we also need to remember that majority of these pundits are United boys. They're the old guards of United that played with Ronaldo, that fancy him, that look up to him, that can't stop singing his praises. And so that's one aspect of it. Two, having played for United, they're always going to defend United. Yeah. So they're going to give the coach credit even where it's not rightly deserved. I don't think that Ten Hag has fully backed his words. In a lot of these positions, you have to be very democratic with your word and say, oh, well, you know, he is a great player and he's a part of my plans. I think he can really bring another dimension to our team in whatever capacity that is, which we know is bogus. We just know it means, one, I'm trying to calm tensions here. I know the influence that Ronaldo is. So going back to what we said previously, Ronaldo has massive influence, both in the game, both outside the game, and that comes with a lot of responsibility on his part and of his club's part, because, like we said, as much as it is centered around football and this is a player looking to apply his trade, we also have to take into consideration that it is a business. The most profitable player, him and Messi, probably in the world. I think shirt sales sold out, which is a massive contribution to the club's fund. You can keep generating money off Ronaldo in his name, and even so in the media, to sell articles, to get engagement. If you just put the word Ronaldo in any article, it's going to get eyes on it. So the media has obviously leveraged his name, which I think he does mention. Also under the criticism that he gets from Gary Neville, Wayne Rooney, etc.
Yeah, all the guys.
So one, I don't think that there has been objective discussion from pundits, media, and
Ten Hag
god of football and Ten Hag himself. Secondly, I don't see a situation where Ronaldo wears the shirt anymore. It's all about damage limitation now and how we can both get what we want. From United's point of view, it's getting him removed from the squad to take away any of the influence that he might have with his teammates, with the youngsters, etc., and to minimize damage to the brand of Manchester United. And then from Ronaldo's side of things, looking just for options to apply his trade. I think there was talk about David Beckham coming in with a bid from Inter Miami. There was talk about him going back to Sporting, Napoli. There were a few people. But yeah, again, you need to find someone that's able to pay him his £500,000 a week salary and find a fit for him. So what's your take on those questions?
I think, to be honest, I think Ten Hag has come in and he's changed some stuff at the club, which I must say I respect. I do think a lot of it has been bogus, and I think it's difficult to manage someone like having someone as influential as Ronaldo in your squad and not necessarily wanting to have him there. I do not envy being in that position. I don't think it's easy to be in that situation. It's part of the reason that I actually think it was very difficult for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because I actually don't think he necessarily wanted Ronaldo, and then he got him, and then his whole team dynamic changed. So, that's kind of how I feel about that. I think that Ten Hag has done a good job at Man United so far. The way he's dealt with Ronaldo, I think he did it as best as he could, but I do think a lot of the stuff he said has been bogus. So I don't necessarily think he has been necessarily giving him the respect that he believes he has, or that a lot of the pundits are saying that he has been giving him. Like I said, that whole captaincy thing, I actually think was a bunch of rubbish. I don't even think that was... I actually think that was more disrespectful than respectful, to be honest with you. I think it was more of a power play of like, look how I can pull the strings, actually. Like, I can paint the picture that I'm giving you respect. I'm the one in control here. Two, no, I don't foresee any future as a Man United player for Ronaldo, to be honest with you. He was very coy in that, and he's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I think he knows full well that this was his move out. He's trying to get a move out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's already something lined up for him. Because essentially what he's doing here is like, if United finds the legal ways to get out of this without paying him out, that's £15 million that they would save and he would lose essentially. And although the man has a lot of money, it's still a lot of money to just throw away. So I wouldn't be surprised if something is lined up for him. But no, I don't see a future there. I think, my final comments on this before I wrap it up for us is that I think this is a huge World Cup for him now. Because essentially, I wouldn't say he's playing for his career necessarily in the same way like someone like Reece Nelson at Arsenal is playing for his career. It's Ronaldo still, but if he has a big World Cup and he shows that he can still do it on the big stage, I think a lot of people will be much more interested in January. But in the same token, if he has a bad World Cup, you never know what's going to happen. And a lot of, I was actually listening to someone earlier and they made a very good point. I'm sure a lot of managers are like looking at this and like, I don't want to risk having him in my squad. Who would want that? What if he speaks up against me? What if, I don't want to have to deal with that. But I must give him a round of applause for actually speaking his mind. I think it is maybe I don't necessarily agree with the platform and the way it was done. A lot of people are like, he could have just gone to the higher ups and been quiet. But he clearly had a point to prove. He clearly had something he felt like he wanted to get off his chest. So, yeah, I think for me, that's it. It's done for him at Man United, which as a outside fan, I'm kind of sad about because it was actually a bit of a distraction that the rest of us, it's like they had to deal with their own internal things. And I think, to be honest with you, I think it's the best for United to kind of close that chapter for now. I think there was a chance for a poetic ending. However, I still firmly believe that the reasoning for signing him to take him away from City is very counterproductive. And Arteta says it every week when they ask him questions about other teams. He's like, no, we focus on ourselves. We make sure that what happens in our dressing room is correct and that what we work towards what we're working towards. Pep Guardiola does the same thing. When they ask him about other teams, he says nothing. No, we focus on our next game. And yeah, I think, there's a lot to be said there. And I look forward to seeing how he plays in the World Cup. I think it's going to be quite a good one in that sense.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think you're right. We must give him a bit more credit. I was actually going to ask a 30-second thing after I've said my last comment was, one, do you think that players should be allowed to speak up? Should they not be heard within the confines of their club? What is my second point? Okay, I'll just leave it at that. But I'd say, kudos to him for speaking his truth. Big credit there. Be really interesting to see what happens post World Cup. And I do think, his chapter has ended with United. We'll see where he goes. He's always going to be Ronaldo. I think he still has a few more years left in him at the top. And I think he'll still be banging in goals wherever he goes.
Yeah.
So, second thing, also 30 seconds, very quick. Do you think he would still be considered a United legend post this interview?
Okay, so the first thing, should players have the opportunity to speak? I think it's so tricky because of what the media does. The media is actually trash at the moment. Like, it really twists and bends and everything. And I think there should be a way for players to actually express themselves and where they should feel, like they should be able to speak about certain things. I do think so. I just don't know what that would look like. So that's what my short answer to that would be. Secondly, would he still be considered a legend? Let me put it this way. With the Glazers there, he'll never get a statue. I don't think. I still think he'll be considered a legend by a lot of people. Purely because I think it is quite sad, actually, that this is going to be the way it ends, to be honest with you, because even as an opposing fan, I have a lot of respect for him and his career. Of course, I mean, it's Ronaldo, you kind of just wish it didn't end like that for him. And like on the other hand, it's like popping off for Messi at PSG at the moment. And yeah, I think you really have an angel and a villain coming into this World Cup, right? You have the angel in the sense of Messi and the villain in terms of Ronaldo. Not that I see it that way, but I do think to a large extent he'll still be considered a legend because of everything he has done. I still stand by that the second coming was a bit of a mistake. He doesn't think so, and that's ultimately what matters. Legend, yes, but his legacy is definitely damaged.
And I think that's where we'll wrap it up. Very, very interesting opinions, lots of touch points, very controversial statements said from both of us. So let us know what your opinion is. Give us your rundown on Ronaldo. Does he have a legacy at United, or what do you think his next steps are? And was he right to do what he did?
Yeah, let us know.
Just remember Instagram, TikTok, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify, YouTube, and our website. So that concludes part 2 of our podcast, and we'll be moving into the final section, part 3.